We would like to start our presentation today with a quotation that when in Rome, do as Romans do, which means that try to adjust with the tradition or rules where you are living, so that you don't make anyone feel uncomfortable or even you yourself don't feel annoyed. In our presentation today, we are going to elaborate the importance of communication in the business world, the cultural relativism, challenges involved in the collaboration of international ventures, and then we will shift our focus towards highlighting the important factors regarding this case study. And after that, we will answer some of the post presentation questions. Since the beginning of human society, communication has been a major part of life. Communication is essential in both social and professional context. No firm can expand if efficient communication is lacking. In order to ensure a seamless flow of ideas and instructions, effective communication is essential. This boosts morale and maximizes staff productivity. It also plays a vital role while trying to connect with other business entities, and especially when the other entity is from any other region. And this is global world. To earn more benefits, every organization wants to go out of its boundary. Doing business internationally has certain benefits as well as some concerns, and cultural relativism is amongst one of those. Cultural relativism is an idea initiated by Franz Boas in early 18s. This idea claims that there are no universal truths and that each culture must be understood in its own particular boundary. Cultural relativism is basically an observation of cultures, values, traditions, and practices from the perspective of that culture itself. The principle is applied to prevent cultural biasness and to prevent evaluating another culture according to the norms of one's own. It is basically a capacity to comprehend another's culture. As a result, refrain from judging others based on the norms of our own culture. Cultural relativist believes that culture and the moral framework that organize connection within the various civilizations vary fundamentally from one another. Here I would like to quote my personal example about the cultural relativism. Since I moved to UK this year, I am encountering a situation. The word sorry is frequently used here in the UK. Even people in my immediate interaction would say I'm sorry if I dropped some anything or if something else went just a little bit wrong. I initially said, well, that's okay, it isn't your fault. Then I questioned, why do you say sorry? I dropped it. It was my mistake because in Pakistan, saying I am sorry implies guilt. Then I discovered that a person using the phrase is just because of their tradition, as they generally feel bad that it occurred to me. According to the cultural relativists, no culture is superior to another in terms of its system of politics, law, or other institutions. There is no definition of good or evil. Every decision and assessment of what is right or wrong must be made by or must be made on individual basis in each community as stated in the theory of cultural relativism. There are two concepts that deal with it, relativism and subjectivism. Both of these doctrines claims that there are no universal truth or an absolute set of morality and knowledge. However, there is distinct difference between the relativism and subjectivism. The difference between relativism and subjectivism is the nature of morality or truth. In relativism, morality or truth exist in relation to the culture, tradition, and society, while in subjectivism, morality or truth is subjective and personal. To better understand the effect of culture on business ethics, let's take an example. Many activities, neither good or nor bad, but exist as a part of tradition. Some Pakistani companies offer inherited jobs, means that an employee's son or daughter is eligible to get a job even if someone else is more qualified than him. Yet the preference will be given to the employee's children. The perk is extremely valuable in the country where jobs are hard to find. Not surprisingly, the perk is among the most cherished by the employees. But in most Western countries, it would be considered as nepotism. In the US, for example, the ethical principle of equal opportunity holds that jobs should go to the applicant with the best qualification. If a US company made such promises to its employees, it would violate regulation established by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Our second question is critically discuss the intercultural and other challenges of collaborative ventures. The business world is not restricted to geographical boundaries. It is interconnected and operates in a global environment. Intercultural communication means the exchange of ideas between individuals from various cultural backgrounds. While interacting while interacting with other cultures, it is so obvious that we need to face some challenges. There are three theories, namely cultural relativism, ethocentrism, and Hofstede culture dimensions, which can be used to understand the challenges associated with the intercultural and collaborative ventures. According to cultural relativism, as explained in previous slides, it refers to not judging a culture to our own standards of what is right or wrong, strange or normal. Instead, one should try to understand cultural practices of other groups in its own cultural context. According to ethocentrism, it is practice of judging other civilizations by one's own culture, which leads to bias. When someone feels that our own culture or group is superior to others, they are said to be ethnocentrists. Hofstede cultural dimension theory helps in understanding the behavior or interaction between the cultures. It states that grouping an entire nation or society together and expecting everyone in that group to behave in the same way is wrong. With intercultural and collaborative ventures, ethocentrism possesses several challenges. Ethocentrism typically arises when partners in a joint venture fails to recognize the diversity of values and beliefs of a group or individual. The most fruitful cross-cultural interaction occur when groups from various backgrounds try to see the advantages of the corporations. The business relation between the joint venture is one of the most important and challenging parts of managing multinational joint ventures. To be more specific, if two distinct businesses decide to work together with a divergent strategic goals and interests, there may be a conflict. They may need to cope up with the challenges related to the issue related to control, rewards, performance, or issue arising out of the environmental factors. Additionally, misunderstanding and ignorance of the laws of the host country may be arise because of culture and communication obstacles. Because of communication and cultural difference, the knowledge sharing procedure and the cross organizational learning can be affected. The success of joint venture can be boosted by employees by employing several tactics such as establishing cultural training programs and raising sensitive level in dealing with other cultures. Now we will discuss about the case study.
Whenever in a business meeting, it is likely that there can be a miscommunication. This case study, miscommunication with the Brazilian auto part manufacturer, is a perfect illustration of how a significant business contact may quickly turn into a failed business deal due to miscommunication between two different companies from different cultural backgrounds. This case study starts with two firms debating whether to conduct international business together. The president and the company new buying manager from US didn't communicate enough, which is the problem. And there are three cultural missteps made by Wally Esther and his father-in-law, which are as follows. Following his commitment to the meeting with Brazilian, Mr. Williams committed some critical mistake. His first error was sending his son-in-law, who had no prior business negotiation. Mr. Williams should have designated another executive employee to travel on his behalf along with Mr. Esther as soon as he became aware that he would not be able to make the trip to Brazil. Moreover, Mr. Williams' made was his failure to inform Mr. Silva and Mr. Augusto of his absence from his business meeting. As a gesture of Goodwill and relationship between Mr. Williams ought to have informed Mr. Silva directly rather than having Mr. Esther apologize on his behalf. Second misstep taken by Mr. Williams was not making sure Mr. Esther was familiar with Brazilian customs before the trip, which should have been helpful and lessened all the negative reaction. The third one misstep is that the first encounter between Mr. Esther and his Brazilian personnel was tense. Although he was trying to be comfortable, his unprofessional outfit was evident because Brazilian businessmen place a high value on appearance, that dressing when conducting business. It would have been more polite to Mr. Silva and Mr. Agos to present a professional image rather than one of each. By calling the Brazilian business people by their first name, Mr. Esther further offended them. Prior to letting up on formality, people in Latin America want to take the time to get to know each other and establish relationship. Until the guy asked him to call them by their first name, Mr. Esther should have addressed both men by their last name. Last but not least, it is considered bad manners in Latin American nations to discuss business before a proper relationship has been established. Without getting to know his prospective business partner, Mr. Astor made the error of jumping immediately into the negotiation process. When said he was heading to the Rio the following day, he also made the error of assuming that the link between the two enterprises was not significant. When he first met the Brazilian business people, Mr. Astor displayed an ethnocentric mindset. Instead of admitting that he might need to alter his business approach to appeal his horse, he formed the presumption that his made up of conducting business would be acceptable to his horse nation partners. Fortunately, after talking with his father-in-law about how the first meeting went, Mr. Astor was able to repair the connection. Now let's talk about when advertising American business people regarding the culture of Brazilian business culture. Is based on my research, the advice which I would like to give to Americans while conducting business with Brazilians are is doing business in Brazil, you must try to build friendly relationship with your Brazilian business partners. If you have a less polite person on your team, it is best to leave them at home. Brazilians have a famous saying, to our friends, everything to others, the law. So be careful what side you take. Brazilians negotiate with individual and not with organization. As a result, it is important to establish a good rapport before talking about business. Avoid displaying frustration or impatience because doing so will make other things negative about you. Your interaction and relationship with Brazilians will improve. You should try to behave in accordance with their culture. Brazilian corporations operate in hierarchies. Deals typically take some time to complete because the highest ranked individual typically makes the final decision. Women typically greet one another by kissing both cheeks. Men typically shake hands. When entering and leaving the room, it's usual to shake hands with everyone there. In Brazil, it's common practice to interrupt someone while they are speaking. Brazilian society use titles and first name in a variety of ways. In your first meeting and in any correspondence with your Brazilian colleague, use your title and last name. It is custom to book a business meeting at least 2 weeks in advance. Negotiations are known to occur over meals or often lunch. It is often appropriate in Brazil to send flowers to the host the day after they have entertained you in their home, and maintaining good eye contact is expected in all
Now, when
conversations.
advising to Brazilian about American cultures, in contrast to Brazilian, Americans tend to do business with corporations and not with the people. They don't prefer a personal meeting before entering into any business contracts. It's okay to wear casual attire and even they don't mind frankness in business conversation. You can wear formal dress code on some occasion, but not required all the time. One more unique thing in the culture is they prefer to speak in a louder tone as they feel it shows power and represent them as a leader. Business meetings are most likely to be scheduled in advance instead of developing personal relationship. They have result oriented approach followed by strong and sorry aggressive behavior. Opposite to Brazilians, business partners in America does not require to have a strong bonding between each other as long as the two parties are able to understand each other and cope up together with all the commercial requirements.
Now we will try to answer the post presentation questions. Question number 1. What could have done better by the Brazilians and Americans? It was important for Americans and Brazilians to respect one another's cultural traditions. Prior to their meeting, neither the Brazilians nor the Americans made an effort to learn more about one another's culture. The Americans ought to have been careful in how they prepared for the meeting because it was the first time they had dealt directly with a foreign corporation. Mr. William questioned Mr. Astor if he apologized for his absence. Mr. Astor said that he did while he didn't. This shows that there should always be an honesty in the company in order to avoid any future problems. The president's absence from the meeting should have been openly disclosed by the Americans. Valley was under the mistaken notion that he was only going to finish the necessary paperwork and wouldn't have to remain behind to make sure that the business trip was successful. While he should wait there and he should try to make sure that the trip goes that everything goes well. Valley should concentrate on the task at hand and not try to combine work and pleasure. On the other hand, Valley was the vice president of the company. The Brazilians might have been more friendly to him. Another important factor is commitment. Mr. William broke the pledge to attend the meeting, which is essential to any successful collaboration. Mr. Williams should have sent a management representative who would have been in a better position and who is more capable and experienced to carry out all these transactions. Question number 2. What are the lessons to be learned from the above case study with regards to the managers trying to embark into collaborative ventures? When working with an overseas client, a strong understanding must be created. Different cultures have distinctive behaviors, therefore, it's beneficial to understand their values, social standards, and cultural traditions in addition to knowing a little bit about their language. Strong cultural understanding can help in conveying right message and will move both parties close to each other and obviously it will make closer towards their goal. It's crucial to know whether the message you are trying to convey is accurate or not if you don't know about their culture because these type of communication varies culture to culture. From the start of the company's venture, constant communication should be maintained. Even if your opinion differs from those of your potential partners, it would be advisable to be culturally sensitive and avoid